Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Rich here today, and today we're going to be changing the oil on this Corvette 2017 Grand Sport Stingray. As you can see, we've got everything we need. First thing that you're going to need, at least about 10 quarts or 10 liters of oil, so that way we can fill this thing up, because it takes about 9.8 quarts, so make sure you buy a couple jugs. On top of that, I'm going to be just using a Fram ultra synthetic oil filter today. I'm also going to be using some clean flow rags, so make sure you get some of those to clean up your mess. And then of course, if you've never worked on your Corvette yet, I would highly suggest you get yourself some jack pads. I'll show you how these go in. They lock into the frame, and what it allows you to do is lift your car without wrecking the bodywork. Super important. I highly suggest you get them. They're like $15 off of Amazon for these ones. You can get metal ones if you want, but I'll show you how to properly use these today. The other thing you're gonna need is a low profile jack, as well as a couple of jack stands. However high you want to go is, well, the height of the jack stand you'll need. I got a couple shorties because we're only doing an oil change. We're not going to need much today. So let's go ahead, wheel a low profile jack over and jack this thing up. So for the next part of this, what some people would do, again, I don't have this screwed together because this isn't the way I'm going to do it, but this is a way you can do it. If you have some 2x6s, you can lie them out like so, screw this in, make sure you have at least 4 screws, because if this slips apart, your car's coming slapping down and you don't want to. That's why I don't usually do it this way, but I'm still gonna show you just in case you don't have the stuff that I have. What you can do then is, after you've screwed this all together, I'd say, you know, even bring this a little farther over. You just want to make sure you have enough, so that way you're not going to rub your front lip right here. What you'd do is you'd roll the car on and then roll it up to the second, so that way you can get your jack underneath. Well, I found it way easier. I have a $100 motorcycle jack, and I'm going to show you how to get the jack, your main jack underneath, using a motorcycle jack. Why? Because I find this way safer and way easier than this way. Before we go ahead and jack the car, make sure you slide 2 pieces of wood in just behind your back tires, just in case it tries to roll backward while you're working on your vehicle. As you can see, rear piece here, side skirt come down, and looky-loo, there it is. All you do is you take this, slide it in the hole. It's oblong, so it only fit one way. Just give me 1 second here. There we go. Turn it. Ta-da. It's not going to fall out. Now that we've got that in there, we just leave it there. Again, it doesn't like screw in. All it does is it turns sideways to lock in. We're going to grab our motorcycle jack. Make sure it's completely under that puck, nice and flat. And all we're going to do is we're going to slowly tighten this. It's going to bring it up, and we're going to monitor it, make sure nothing's slipping, and then just lift it. We don't have to lift the car too high, just enough to get that jack underneath over there. Looks something like this, see? Not touching any body work, and it lifts it up just enough. Let's go see if our jack will fit and put in another jack puck. See that? Now we have the room we need. We slipped in another jack puck. Again, there's another slot right here. It's pretty much on the door seam, and we still have room. I still have at least a finger. So we're good. Now from here, we make sure we're on that jack puck. You start to lift and monitor. Monitor there, and you're gonna slowly actually end up lifting it off of this jack over here, because of how this suspension works. And again, always monitoring. As we lift and you're monitoring that, we'll show you afterwards where we're going with it. Yep, jack puck's doing its job. Jack's not even touching it, but it's got the metal piece on there, so that way we know it doesn't slip. I've seen people where they don't use the metal piece and they just use the flat part of the jack. That way they gain more distance. Very dangerous. You could slip off of there. It's a slippery surface, so don't do that. As you can see, our tire is up pretty high, even in the rear because of how this is built, but that is working. Take a look here. See the little skinny guy up front? It's not in your manual, but it's been proven you can go and put a jack stand right there. Again, I wouldn't suggest this for any heavy duty maintenance like if you're doing a wheel bearing or something, definitely would be doing a jack stand on each side of this big guy right here over this way. But if you put them there, you're gonna have oil all over your jack stands. So we go back there instead, we line it up, make sure it's not overhanging on both sides, and we're gonna slowly lower the jack onto that jack stand, and this car's gonna balance out. You'll see. Just like that. First thing you're gonna wanna do, counterclockwise, make sure I actually have this. But yeah, counterclockwise is we wanna make sure this is on here and you're loosening like so. After you do so, this is a 15 mil, you can go ahead, line your first pan up and start to loosen the bolt. Remember the 30-70 rule. Put it 70% in front of the bolt. And then what you're going to do is loosen it, and this is your first one. There's 2 on this vehicle. And if you can, wear gloves. There you go. Let it drain. You can also slide it back a little bit after the initial pour. As it's draining, if you notice your pan's getting too full, you can always put the bolt back in. But what we want to do is let the initial flow out first. See how it's just kind of trickling down now? I would just put this back in for a second. Give this a nice wipe before we move it. Then we can go ahead and slide this just to that other jack stand. Next thing we want to do, remember, if you're looking at it from this way, it's the opposite way. So you'd be going clockwise, not counterclockwise, because the bolt is facing the opposite direction. So it's like that. And then you drop your wrench in the oil. Now go ahead, have that lined up. Just go ahead and pull this bolt out. Probably gonna get our hands a little dirty on this one, which is fine. Just let it drain. So what I've done is I've put these both back in for a sec. I'm gonna actually empty my oil pan and put it back underneath here, and then I'm gonna let this drip for about 15-20 minutes and just let it get every bit of oil that I can out. As you can see, they're both dripping. Now we're just gonna let it continue dripping. And like I said, I'll probably leave this for about 20 minutes just so it gets every bit of the fluid out, or as much as you can. But some people will do, and again, this is up to you. I did this actually to move the car, but I had it running for maybe, maybe 5 minutes just to warm up the oil a little bit, not so it's scalding hot, but just so it moves a little easier. Now, others will tell you to leave it for overnight on the jack stands and then do this, so that way it gets the most amount of fluid out of it because more will be sitting in the pan. So it's kind of a catch-22. If you warm it up, it runs smoother, and if you let it sit into the bottom of the pan, it drains out. But to tell you the truth, as long as you're actually following your oil change intervals of about, maybe 8,000 kilometers on synthetic, you're going to be fine. It's going to not really matter. You'll get out as much as you can, and 8,000 kilometers from now, you're going to drain it again, and you're already doing it better than most because for some reason, people don't change their oil enough. I've seen oil filters actually claim to be good for 25,000 kilometers. I'm like, I'm changing that every time I do an oil change. So again, a little bit of rambles, let it empty, let it do its thing, and we'll go from there. As you can see what I did with the oil filter wrench, just got it a little loose. You shouldn't have to do much more than that. Make sure that this still drips into here. And then, you're gonna see that, and it's gonna start leaking out too. As it does that, go ahead and let that drain, and then after it drains, you'll unscrew it a little more, and it'll drain a little more, and keep doing it until it drains out. and you have it off. Looking at this bolt, instantly I can tell two things. One, I'm going to be replacing it next oil change. As you can see, the last guy melted the threads off pretty nicely. My 15 still works on it, which is fine, but I will replace that when I do my next oil change. I'll get 2 of these, and you should do that periodically. So at least if you wanted to, depending on how much you're driving the car, you know, every 4 oil changes. Some people will change it every oil change. I'll leave it up to you. If you want to, pick them up, do them every oil change. I think it's kind of excessive. Even if you did 1 every 2, like I said, I'll probably be doing 1 every 4. As you can see, it's got that gasket in there. Always inspect the gasket, make sure there's no chips out of it. And other than that, plugs back in. All you gotta do is put the green one in the side one. And then, after we do that one, put the blue one in the far back one. Or as I should say, the one closest to the engine. Give those 2 a quick wipe. We'll move the oil out of the way so that way you don't accidentally drop your wrench in it. All right, so now that we've got both these in here, we moved our oil pan out of the way. Give these guys a good wrenching in. They only need to be to 15 foot-pounds. You might be able to get a wrench in there to check for 15 foot-pounds, but you're definitely not gonna get one past the oil cooler. And literally it's just that. Snug it up with one hand. You should not be double-handing this one. And that's about it. If you want, you can try and get a good grip there. I'm happy with that. So now that that's ready, let's go get our oil filter ready so that way we can screw that on. Some people will pre-fill the oil filter. You can do that if you'd like. What I do is I pour a little bit of oil in the filter, but in the actual filter itself, so that way I can go like this and then rub it around the rim and make that gasket nice and slippery so that way it's not going to catch on anything. And then, like I said, just using fresh oil. Now go screw that in onto the spot where you pulled the old oil filter out. And remember, hand tight, never with a tool. So get your monkey grip on there and just give her a nice wrenching on there with just your hand. Since I'm feeling extra tippy today, always check on that silver rim for any debris, but also look for a second gasket. If there's a gasket there and you go to put this one on, it'll double gasket and it'll spray your oil everywhere. It's never a good thing. Go ahead, screw this on. And like I said, get it with your monkey grip. Like, right there. I like that. Perfect. Now we're gonna lower the car. So get everything out from underneath it. Inspect. Make sure that once you've got that jack stand out, you've still got your piece right there. Or if you did the blocks, your blocks are still under your tire. Otherwise you're gonna, once again, crush your side skirt when you lower it. Slowly lower and make sure everything comes down nice and smooth. The jack is out. Time to take out my last jack stand piece here. And the car will be completely flat. We can start adding in oil. And again, just make sure you put it on reverse and then just like that. And we're clear. Let's go up top. And now it's time to pop the hood. Right beside your OBD2 port. Pull that. Sure you know that, but still. Close our door. Go ahead, lift your hood. Come over to this side, turn it sideways. Up and off. Put this off to the side. This is where we're going to put the oil in. We're definitely going to need a funnel to do so. I like to just put a blue clean flow rag right here. Slip your funnel in, crack your first jug. We're gonna pour the whole thing in. Now, if you've never poured a jug of oil for some reason, make sure that you pour it like this. I know it looks like you should be doing it like that, but you pour it sideways like that. And watch, it won't spill everywhere. All right, so we know that our oil capacity is about 9.8 quarts. There's 5.25 quarts in each one of these jugs because they're 5 liters. So what we're gonna end up doing is I poured the full one in there. What we're gonna end up doing is putting in another, let's say, 4 to 4.5 quarts out of this jug. And now there is a reader on the side right here. And so what you wanna do is bring it down to the point where it's right about here. See where it says 1.5 quarts right here on the side? We want to drop it to right about there. And that way we can go and test our levels after that. Since I'm using 5-liter jugs, which equals 5.25 quarts, I end up having 1 quart left over. So we leave that one last quart that's left over, and we're going to put the plug back in. We're going to open our garage door and we're going to start it up. And we're going to let it get up to operating temperature. Once it's up to operating temperature, we're going to check our fluid levels again and top up accordingly. Last check, look there, already looked under the vehicle. We got nothing going through, just on the regular. Let's go through here. We'll give it a second here. All right, so press over, go to info, press OK. As you can see, you can go up and down through the info now. What we want to do is go all the way, just showing you us scrolling through. There it is, oil life. Press OK on that. And we just want to press, over to the right hand side, press reset. Yes. Boom, oil life is reset. Now we're just going to let it continue to warm up. As you can see, we're slowly climbing, but you want to get that to basically halfway on the temperature gauge. Once we get there, then we'll be at operating temperature, and we can go ahead and take a look at where our oil level's at. If you press left on your selector, go to performance, and then you can go up and down the performance to where it says, not there, one up, oil temperature, perfect. We want it at about 80, and it looks like we're about there right now. So we should be able to technically turn off our vehicle. And look at that. I don't even have to add anything. It was the perfect amount. We are right up to that top bubble. So we're full, we're ready to go, and that's it. If yours is under that, just top it up a tiny bit. And again, as long as it's in that hot range between the 2 bubbles, you're really good. You just don't want to be over those 2 bubbles, all right? And that's about it. Slide the dipstick back on and enjoy all the fresh oil. And again, just keep an eye on any leaks or anything from the bottom of your vehicle. I don't see you having any, but it's always good just in case you have one, because maybe a gasket or something got nicked. Anyways, I hope this helped you out. Thanks again for watching, and you never know what I'm going to do on this car next, so subscribe for more and follow the journey.